What are the most significant SEO challenges faced by big brands? With Grégory Dominé. The In Search SEO Podcast is brought to you by Similarweb, helping you build better SEO strategies with digital intelligence, insights, and data. Hey, it's David. Although big brands have more presence, they also have particular SEO challenges. That's what we're going to be discussing today with a man with a background as a web entrepreneur and a digital project manager. He also wrote his professional thesis focusing on natural language processing and the use of GPT-1 in SEO and content strategy back in 2019. For the past 2 years, he's been global head of SEO, framing good SEO practice across 780 websites for beauty industry leader L'Oréal. A warm welcome to the In Search SEO Podcast, Grégory Dominé.
Hi, David, and thanks for having me today.
Hey, Gregory, thanks so much for coming on. Of course, Gregory heads up the SEO at L'Oréal.com. So, Gregory, tell me about GPT-1.
Oh, yeah, that was already an exciting time where, the neural networks were starting to kick into generation of content, and we were really happy to see the results that were much more fluent, statistically correct, building, articulating phrases, sentences, ideas, eventually chapters of content that could really make sense, that would not be with such an automation flavor that we observed before the appearance of neural network. So yeah, it was already an exciting time to play with the tool. However, it was quite limited. I don't remember having access to the API at stage. I was using the UI, the platform online. And yes, I basically used it to illustrate my master's thesis by prompting the machine and generating a part of my copy as an illustration on how to generate content and how it can be proposed for SEO and content strategy.
Well, wonderful to have the foresight to be able to use that and the opportunity to be able to use that 5 years ago, because obviously I think many SEOs didn't jump on the bandwagon until maybe 2.5 or perhaps even later on. So great to have that perspective. But today we're discussing the most significant SEO challenges faced by big brands. And that starts off with, I guess, SEO for millions of pages and lots of languages and markets.
Yeah, well, basically that's the scope. However, that's not a unified platform. Therefore, changing one parameter or one server setup here or there cannot be scaled at the true scope of our website. You've mentioned L'Oréal, but L'Oréal is more than 36 brands. That YSL for Yves Saint Laurent Beauty, that's Giorgio Armani and Kiehl's for Luxe, but that's also Garnier, L'Oréal Paris Professional, Kerastase, La Roche-Posay, CeraVe, across dermatological beauty, across customer products, and across professional product divisions. Our 4 divisions encompass a huge scope of brand, and that makes the job harder. It's not one brand, one language, one platform. It's multiple brands, multiple language, multiple platforms, multiple framework and stakeholders.
And in terms of multiple brands, do you prefer to have a separate domain name for each brand?
Yes, absolutely. We have a separate domain name for each brand. First, because, well, just politics. If Saint Laurent Beauty wouldn't like to share the common domain with another CPD or another even Luxe brand from the group, they all have a very strong brand identity and therefore wants to have their own domain. And that's the direction that has been taken years ago already. So we have local domain name.
And does that mean different servers as well?
Absolutely. Yes, they are spread across the world on different stacks, using different technologies. So we monitor that closely with teams dedicated to server monitoring and performance. And when we conduct crawls, we had to find approaches to be sure never to stress servers too much, because some are mutualized, some are not. Depending on their location and time, we cannot crawl them all at the same time. So yeah, we had to figure out some solutions, and we did.
I'm sure you did, but I'm still to have some existing challenges still, because I remember working for a big brand, maybe giving the French language as an example, and Google struggling to throw up the correct country website in the correct country, be it French in Switzerland or France or somewhere else. Do you still have language issues with Google?
Yeah, that's a pain point, and you're putting your finger right at it. Yes, Ahref equivalencies are really an issue that we're still trying to tackle. We have the beginning of an approach that consists in a common language that we have been building for the last year. It helps us to pivot data and measure our edge across multiple territories and across multiple categories, across multiple languages. Using that model, we can map what contents are equivalent. We're not here completely yet. We are just at this stage mapping what keywords are equivalent. But I trust that later in 2024, we will be able to map content to keywords at the scale of the entire group, and therefore to fix the language issues. So we are sure that what is French from Belgium ranks in Belgium and not in France, and vice versa.
Got you. Okay. And when you look after so much content, I guess it can be tempting just to translate existing content, but of course that can sometimes not be as effective across different countries. So how much of your content do you produce unique for each country versus just do a direct translation?
There is not a single answer. It will depend from brand to brand that have different culture of search, different cultures of content. There are these brands that are very involved into content production centrally. Therefore, they will produce it in English and push this content top down so the market can reuse it. It goes from very, very awareness content, such as a TV campaign with an égérie for the latest fragrance, up to the product launch with the details over the ingredients or tutorials on the ways to apply a routine or a cream. However, there is also this content that is produced locally because the production from the brand, central brand, doesn't really meet the local requirements, or in terms of positioning, keyword and semantics, or in terms of topics that are trending in the local market. Therefore, we have both of these two words, and content provided in English that is translated locally, or content that is produced locally in the local language. The proportion varies completely from one website to another, and we have 780 websites. So I cannot tell you an exact precise figure. It varies.
What length of time on average does it take from the conceptualization of a piece of content to the publishing of a piece of content? Because being a big brand, you have to be protective of what's included in that piece of content. So do you have that process down to a T, and does it take a relatively short period of time?
Long story short, yes, it takes a long period of time, not a short one. And it, again, changes from one brand to another. Usually between the ideation of content that emerge from the brand itself centrally or the market to the publication, it can take up to 4 weeks or 2 months, because indeed it has to go through brand safety, legal, IP rights, of course, proofreading, but also medical proofreading, scientific proofreading before it's granted green light to be published. So yeah, it can take weeks. So it's a big challenge for me to identify the right metrics, like time to live, time to publication, between ideation and publication, or to try to reduce that, but to reduce that at scale. So this means not to improve one local process in the market for a brand, or not one local process for one brand in a division, but one better process at the scale of L'Oreal and 780 websites. So that's makes me quite busy.
And a brand's perception online can also be dictated by the content published off your site by different influencers. I'm sure you've got some preferred partners or some influencers that your various outreach teams might work with. If that's the case, how closely do you try and work with them to ensure that what they publish is on brand, or do you by and large let people publish what they feel is right and what their opinion is?
So whatever is social is on the realm of another team. What could be published on blogs is not overlooked, but not monitored closely, except when we're working on measuring the number of citations, links pointing back at our websites. However, it's not systematic. So there is no curation of what is said. We focus on producing the right beauty products, the right beauty contents. And so far, we are lucky to be working with beautiful brands that have such an equity, thanks to, of course, long history of branding and positioning in the luxury area, but also quite consistent investment in media and a worldwide knowledge of most of the brands we're working with. So I would say that the discussions around on the open web as well as on social media are quite positive in general. And we benefit definitely from that, also from a SEO perspective, definitely.
So you've highlighted a significant content publishing challenge, a whole set of procedures that you've got to go through. But another challenge, of course, is the fragmented platform stack that you have to deal with. And I'm sure you've got tens of different CMS systems or publishing platforms or technical infrastructure that goes in to make a website. Ideally, do you try and minimize the number of CMS platforms, for instance, that you work with?
Yes, we have rationalized that. So basically, we have centralized all the platform maintenance and evolution within two different factories. One factory dedicated to D2C websites and another factory dedicated to non-D2C websites. So these two factories manage a portfolio of web stacks that is still kept maintainable with one or two main solutions that are the most common at L'Oréal. But from these root frameworks, a lot of customization have been applied to that brand versus another brand. So although they can have the same common framework, the level of customization and setup that is dedicated to one brand, from the server setup to the UX and the cart process and so on, can be completely different from one to another due to a plugin activation setup and so on.
If you're consolidating software, consolidating CMSs, what are one or two things that you do to try and ensure that you don't break things?
Well, we have quite consistent teams of engineers and experts that monitor servers, that watch the vitals of our websites. That's one thing. Second, we conduct a monthly SEO crawl of all our properties. So we make sure that our scope of pages remain stable month over month, that we can keep the error pages on the radar to fix them month after month. So we have a constant monitoring of progress and regressions when it comes to SEO criteria.
And could you speak a little bit more about the challenge of conducting SEO at scale and measuring everything? I mean, you touched upon measurement a little bit there in terms of ensuring that any migrations are successful, but for deploying various SEO improvements that you have to make, how do you try to ensure that things are deployed quickly and efficiently?
We have to size opportunities and to opt for those who are the quick win, those who can eventually be driving the most traffic for the least efforts. But honestly, at the scale of L'Oréal, it's also navigating within the organization when you have different teams and stakeholders that can have different agendas. So it's mostly once you have found a possible optimization to leverage and these tactics, and there is a potential SEO gain there, then it's the beginning of another story, which is all into getting the buy-ins at the scale of L'Oreal. So sometimes you have to talk to the North Asia zone, or sometimes you have to talk to the US. Sometimes you have to talk to the factory for D2C or the factory for non-D2C. Sometimes you have to align with the social and the PR. That is, to me, the hardest task of my role. And to be completely honest, that since I arrived, basically, I didn't put my hands into real SEO on a day-to-day basis that I used to do before, and that we usually talk about. I'm mostly navigating the organization, trying to sell a vision, a framework, a way of measuring, a way of better performing in SEO, looking at the right KPI, rather than conducting optimization crawl after crawl like I used to do, or building content strategy or link building strategies that I used to do when I was in agencies.
And being a consummate politician in a very large organization is probably a different episode in itself. That's a large discussion that we could certainly go into. I'd just like to ask you one further question in relation to what I mentioned earlier on, GPT-1. And obviously nowadays we've got much more progressed AI assistants that can help us with different tasks. Is it possible to really keep up to speed when you're working in a large organization with all the latest AI and actually implement what can be done and do that at relative speed as well?
That's one of the most fascinating side of this role. At L'Oreal, we are always looking for what's emerging, and we are really seizing it at the very, very, very beginning. Therefore, there was a lot of interest into generative AI since the very boom of ChatGPT 3.5 back in 2023, and a lot of interest and traction here. SEO was expected to be one of the channel or métier at L'Oreal that would be impacted, and we have been testing a lot, and we have been, or we still are impacted like everyone else in the SEO industry. The fortune is that we dedicate time, resources, and efforts on experimenting what is new. So I can say that, yeah, we are lucky to be quite advanced and to be given the time and resources to stay at the right page.
Let's finish off with
the Pareto Pickle.
Pareto says you can get 80% of your results from 20% of your efforts. What's one SEO activity you would recommend that provides incredible results from modest levels of effort?
Well, I'm afraid that this answer can be a bit disappointing, but when you take it from my perspective of 780 websites, multiple languages, multiple stacks and processes to push content online, knowing that it can take weeks to update a ticket and to resolve it, I would say that just a simple keyword research that inform right title on our millions of pages would be already a fantastic job done. Well, we are doing that thanks to automation also and language model. But yeah, I would say that the very, very first thing I would recommend. Would you be in my perspective?
I've been your host, David Bain. Grégory Dominé heads up the SEO team at L'Oreal.com. Gregory, thanks so much for being on the In Search SEO podcast.
Thank you for having me, David. It was a pleasure.
And thank you for listening. Check out all the previous episodes and sign up for a free trial of the Similarweb platform over at Similarweb.com.